guys, what's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy Young Sinai.
Angel Knot.
Alright, so this is We Wanted This Bad. Power Rangers Changed the World by Top Hat Gaming Man. I love his videos. Let's go ahead.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers turned morning television for me into the most adrenaline-fueled part of the day. I stumbled out of bed still in my pyjamas, eyes half open, only to be jolted awake by the epic theme song. Forget cereal, the real breakfast of champions was watching spandex-clad heroes karate chopping sparks out of rubber monsters. 1 minute you're groggy and yawning, the next moment you're fly kicking the air and spilling your orange juice everywhere because it's morphin time. Each episode delivered everything a kid could dream of: over-the-top martial arts, epic robot brawls, and villains who behaved like they were competing for most dramatic pose at a costume party gone wrong. The special effects were delightfully cheesy, and the costumes looked like someone raided a spandex warehouse.
Yo, I'll say this every time we do a Power Ranger video and they show the Green Ranger, okay? When he came on the scene and he yanked them Power Rangers out of the Megazord, that's probably hands down one of the coldest moments on TV. That's like, I'm not even joking when I say this. I'm not even joking. That's like dag near equivalent to when Walter White said to Skyler, "I am the danger." Yo, that was so cold.
But none of that mattered the moment the Megazord rolled onto the screen. Morning TV wasn't just about cartoons anymore. We got 20-minute live-action blockbusters every single day, and by the time the credits rolled, we were practically hypnotized, already rehearsing the perfect plea to our parents to buy us flip-head action figures that morphed with the press of a button.
Oh, I used to have them. Did you used to have them? Yo, if you're watching the video, I appreciate you. Please hit like so that YouTube can push it up in the algorithm. Also, please hit subscribe because I'm on my journey to 1,000 subscribers. So I appreciate y'all watching on YouTube and watching on Twitch.
Plastic Megazords that combine just like on TV, bed sheets with the coolest Ranger poses, lunch boxes that instantly made everything taste better, and of course, the video game. However, bearing in mind this was the early 90s, what we would receive would end up varying widely based on which system we owned. For me, I had a Super Nintendo, so on Christmas Day of 1994, I would wake up to this one. So with that said, join me today as we take a nostalgic look back at this title and discuss how well it managed to deliver on the huge amount of hype that surrounded it. Did it make us feel like heroes ourselves, ready to take on the world, or did it fumble its way into that dreaded pile of games we swore were good, but only because we didn't know better? Was this the licensed game of the year we all hoped for, or did it crash and burn under the weight of its own hype? Let's find out. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. This is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Super Nintendo, a game that changed our lives. Yeah! The 16-bit generation was absolutely glorious, wasn't it? It gave us a golden age of gaming that many of us still cherish to this very day. What makes it even better is that today's developers are once again tapping into that magic, delivering modern titles inspired by the era when, in my opinion, gaming was at its peak. Speaking of video games of this style, I can hook you up with a massive discount on some of the best retro-themed games around. 70 guidance, you can score up to round. If you've been eyeing some new titles for your collection, now's... When it came to a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game for the Super Nintendo, it felt like a match made in heaven from the moment I...
Is that the Pink Ranger? Yo, I'm colorblind. Yo, I'm color deficient. Yo, is this the Pink Ranger? If so, that look like a dude. Now, you know, in Japan, we use a lot of their footage and stuff, but I'm just trying to figure this out. Let me know. Is this the Pink Ranger? Please let me know in the comments because I am colorblind. If so, that look crazy.
To a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game for the Super Nintendo, it felt like a match made in heaven from the moment I first laid eyes on the franchise. The show's explosive action seemed like the right ingredients for an epic game. Everything about it screamed potential, just waiting to be transformed into a 16-bit adventure worthy of the hype. Besides, even back then I'd heard through the grapevine that all of the Rangers' fight scenes came from Japan, just like the video games I loved. Speaking of which, my parents insisted to me that the person in the Yellow Ranger costume was actually a man. And years later, when I...
Shoot, the pixel art, the person inside of the Pink Ranger pixel art is a man. Because, you know, there's a person inside of there.
I finally saw the Super Sentai footage online, I realized they were right.
That ain't no woman. It's a man.
So yeah, just like the original Super Sentai footage and the Yellow Ranger's hidden power staff, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Super Nintendo game also came from Japan. It was developed by Natsume, the same company behind some real gems like Wild Guns, Pocky and Rocky, and Lufia, Rise of the Sinistrals.
Pocky and Rocky, have y'all played that before? I have that game. It's cool.
So a case could easily be made that development was placed in quite capable hands. Ever since I first learned about Power Rangers, I had some awareness of Super Sentai lurking in the background. Plus, I vividly remember the frustration of seeing Japanese versions of games in magazines.
Yo, so let's check this out. I'm running this back. Hold on. I want y'all to see something.
Plus, I vividly remember the frustration.
Okay, so I was trying to watch Power Rangers with my wife. She didn't watch Power Rangers growing up. You know, she wasn't as cool as me. So I was trying to show her how awesome it was. And it was showing the Megazord. And I promise you, it was the Megazord. And it was like a Power Ranger action figure, like on their shoulder. Like it's supposed to look like they're on it, but you could clearly tell it was an action figure. Oh my gosh, it was so embarrassing.
Of seeing Japanese versions of games in magazines and having to wait ages for them to hit the UK. For a good decade or two, I just assumed this Power Rangers game was a heavily localized version, complete with custom sprites, and that somewhere out there a very Japanese version existed, starring the Zoo Rangers instead. And believe me, I was always eager to get my hands on it. Now here's the surprising part. Even though Super Sentai was already well established in Japan, Power Rangers had become so immensely popular in the West that Bandai, the game's publisher, prioritized creating this title specifically for Western audiences. As a result, Japanese players received a game filled with characters originally designed for the Western market. This approach led to a simultaneous release in North America and Europe in November of 1994, with the game later being localized in reverse for Japan a full 12 months
Yo, that cover is so iconic, man. That's classic.
later. Clearly, capitalizing on the Power Rangers phenomenon while it was at its peak was an opportunity Bandai couldn't afford to miss. So with that historical context out of the way, let's discuss what they actually gave us. Rangers.
I'll skip past that because I don't know if it's copyrighted.
Theme song. A tune that remains fondly remembered and celebrated over 30 years later. The addition of actual vocals made it even more special, especially since voice sampling in Super Nintendo games was still relatively uncommon at the time. It created a sense of excitement and anticipation before we even hit the start button, and that was appreciated. After a brief scene showing the 5 teenagers with attitude, looking worried at Rita Repulsa looming menacingly in the sky, we're taken to the character select screen. Here we can choose which of the 5 unmorphed Rangers we want to play as.
Yo, these dance moves is on point. Let's run that back.
Before commencing beat-em-up style side-scrolling, we can choose which of the 5 in the sky. We're taken to the character select screen. Here we can choose which of the 5 unmorphed Rangers we want to play as before commencing beat-em-up style side-scrolling gameplay. As for the core gameplay itself, we first had to play through 5 main stages, the perfect number to give us the opportunity to get the feel for each Ranger in a single playthrough. The newest Power Rangers game, Rita's Rewind, has come under fire recently for featuring little to no diversity from Ranger to Ranger, but retrospectively this Super Nintendo game provided a little more depth in options in terms of movesets. Jason, Kimberly, Zack, Trini and Billy offer subtle differences in their combat styles and abilities, though it must be said that the overall mechanics are similar from character to character, but each Ranger has unique traits in terms of speed, reach and attack style. Jason, the Red Ranger, is the most balanced character, offering a reliable mix of power and speed. His attacks are straightforward, making him an easy and effective choice for beginners. When morphed, he wields the Power Sword, giving him solid reach and damage output. Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, stands out for her speed and agility, making her the fastest of the group. Her graceful, quick strikes compensate for her lack of raw power. In her morphed form, she can use a power bow.
Yeah, so that is the Pink Ranger. Man, she look muscular.
Zack, the Black Ranger, brings a dynamic acrobatic fighting style to the mix. His attacks flow smoothly, incorporating dance.
Not saying women can't be muscular, but they got her looking like a bodybuilder, man. Not saying women can't be bodybuilders. I'll be able to stop. I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Like motions that reflect his energetic personality, a style he refers to in the show as hip-hop Kido. When morphed, he fights with the power axe, balancing reach and power effectively. Trini, the Yellow Ranger, offers a versatile combination of agility and strength. Her quick and efficient strikes make her a solid choice for close-quarter combat. Morphed, she wields the power daggers, relying on rapid dual weapon strikes to take down enemies. Billy, the Blue Ranger, focuses on precision and range. He moves slightly slower than the others, but compensates with deliberate controlled attacks. In his morphed form, he uses the Power Lance, which provides excellent reach and control during combat. I found the way he could spin, for example, to feel particularly satisfying. While the differences among the Rangers aren't drastic, these nuances in speed, reach and weapon style allow players to choose the character that best suits their preference. Whether they value speed, power or versatility, the most important thing is that children from the era could spend time playing as whatever Ranger they favoured the most from the TV show. Well, except for the green one, that is, but more on that shortly. One aspect I really appreciate about the stage design is how it mirrors the structure of the Power Rangers TV show, making the storytelling feel authentic. In each stage, players start off controlling the Rangers in their unmorphed forms, battling waves.
Why is Zach just like grinning like that? he's like,
of putty patrol enemies. Midway through the stage, they encounter the Villain of the Week, which triggers the iconic moment where the Rangers morph into their armoured forms. The second half of the stage then has the player take on the villain while fully morphed. This progression perfectly reflects the narrative style of the show.
Hey, who y'all think will win in a fight? I was thinking about this. The putties or the foot soldiers? I think absolutely the foot soldiers because they're ninjas. I think the putties would get destroyed.
Giving us exactly what we, as kids of the era, loved and expected. As for the action throughout these stages, the gameplay in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers delivers a classic 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up experience, as previously outlined and demonstrated. The game is enjoyable for several key reasons. The tight, responsive controls make combat feel fluid and satisfying, while each Ranger's unique set of moves and weapons adds variety to the gameplay. The stages are thoughtfully designed, blending platforming challenges with combat sequences to keep the action engaging and prevent it from feeling too repetitive. It's all serviceable enough to help immerse us in its world. However, while the gameplay is for the most part fun, it could have been better with a few improvements. The lack of a multiplayer mode is a missed opportunity, as beat-em-ups are often more enjoyable.
What? You couldn't play 2 players with this? I'm sorry, I never had this Power Rangers game. You couldn't play 2 players? That's trash.
When played with a friend. The combat mechanics, while solid, are fairly simple and could benefit from a deeper moveset or combo system to add more complexity and replay value.
They should have redesigned that Pink Ranger.
And additionally, the enemy variety is limited, which can make the stages feel stale at points. The tight Christmas 1994 deadline helps explain why Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the SNES wasn't given an extra layer of polish. Bandai and the developers at Natsume were clearly focused on getting the game out in time to capitalize on the holiday shopping frenzy.
And see, that's like the bad thing about about retro games is they can just release it and then patch it later.
And the peak of Power Rangers mania. This rush likely meant that there wasn't enough time to refine certain aspects of the game, such as adding more complex combat mechanics, enhancing enemy variety, or including a multiplayer mode, but that doesn't mean decent attention wasn't put in further areas of the title. For example, I quite appreciate the bosses and how mechanically they all vary quite differently from one another. On stage 1, for example, we take on Bones, a skeletal monster who first appeared in Season 1, Episode 2. In this episode, he battles the Rangers in a strange dimension created by Rita Repulsa. This early encounter emphasises the Rangers learning to work together as a team to defeat Rita's threats. In the game, he wildly swings his sword during the first phase of the fight. After dealing enough damage, players must continue the battle unarmed. Eventually, he is reduced to just a floating head, but the most challenging part of the encounter is he becomes faster and harder due to his hitbox getting smaller. Just like how he challenges the Rangers in the show, this boss serves as a valuable learning curve for players, testing our timing and reflexes. Next up, we have to deal with Gnarly Gnome. His tricky powers in the show make him a memorable villain, and his appearance as a boss fight in the Super Nintendo game reflects his signature style of fighting. He teleports around, causing confusion with him really upping his antics.
Hey, he kind of remind me of can't remember his name, but the little wizard dude on Mario.
Second stage of the fight. Stage 3 includes Eye Guy. Eye Guy appeared in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, Episode 8, titled Eye Guy. In this episode, Eye Guy is sent by Rita Repulsa to capture a young genius named Willie, a friend of Billy's, in order to steal his intelligence. Eye Guy's ability to detach his main eye and launch energy attacks make him a formidable opponent for the Rangers, but the episode highlights Billy's ingenuity and bravery as the team works together to defeat this monster. Attacking this grotesque monster in the game causes him to release eyeballs that double as projectiles, all while players must dodge his slam attacks and laser beams firing from his head. Just like in the show, during the latter part of the fight, his main eye detaches from his body, and defeating it becomes the key to victory. This adds a layer of complexity and makes for a more engaging and well thought out boss fight. Stage 4 features the Genie. Rita Repulsa creates the Genie to help her execute a plan where she creates evil duplicates of the Power Rangers. The Genie is a magical sword-wielding monster who battles the Rangers with teleportation and energy-based attacks, and just like with the source material, this is exactly what strategy the Genie utilizes in the game to try and defeat you too. At the end of Stage 5, we must take on the Dark Warrior. He's one of Rita's creations.
Yo, I ain't gonna hold you. He was talking so fast there. I did not understand what he was saying with this heavy accent. I didn't. That must be how like some people hear rap music, because I did not know what he just said for that last like. Maybe I'm tired. Or for that last like paragraph.
Tasked with stealing a powerful invisibility formula invented by Trini scientist Uncle Howard. In the game, he is swift and agile, attacks with dashes, jump strikes and shurikens. He also uses smoke bombs to create confusion. Success in this fight requires patience, dodging his rapid attacks and countering when he pauses. But none of the challenges are too tricky, which makes perfect sense considering this game was aimed squarely at kids. Then again, this never stopped other developers from torturing us with difficulty. I'm looking at you, Ghosts and Goblins. While everything we've described so far forms the core gameplay that stays true to the Power
Why is Zach's face stuck on that smile, y'all? Look at this.
Rangers Goblins. While everything we've described so far forms the core gameplay
Ain't that ridiculous?
that stays true to the Power Rangers TV show, there's another crucial element fans can expect: Megazord battles. True to the series, these colossal fights happen exclusively against the final bosses of the game. In these Megazord segments, the gameplay shifts to a more traditional one-on-one fighting game style.
On this part,
Players control the Megazord in large-scale battles facing off against the towering monsters. These fights feature special attacks, block mechanics, and a health bar system, requiring players to time their moves carefully and exploit enemy weaknesses. Essentially, the game transforms from a beat-em-up to a versus fighter just like that. The Megazord's moveset includes basic punches, kicks, and powerful special moves that reflect the high-impact finishers seen in the show. Strategy comes into play as you manage your limited energy gauge, which determines how often you can unleash your most devastating attacks. The more you allow your meter to charge, the more powerful moves you can perform, but this doesn't stop your opponent from being able to block or dodge against them. These battles serve as climactic showdowns that reward players for their performance leading up to this point, successfully capturing the essence of the Power Rangers' dramatic, large-scale battles that would usually serve as finales for the end of each episode. From a gameplay perspective, while it may not be groundbreaking, this game delivers mostly where it counts. It effectively captured the essence of the Power Rangers experience and allowed us as children to step into the boots of our heroes. For many of us, this was a defining moment, finally being able to literally feel what it was like to be a Power Ranger. The game may not have been spectacular, but it did what it needed to. It brought our favourite show to life in a way that left a lasting impact. But still, something was missing. Even back then,
Green Ranger.
as fun and exciting as the game was, it always felt like something significant wasn't included. For many of us who grew up with this game, that absence was hard to ignore. I'm talking, of course, about the lack of the Green Ranger. At the time, the Green Ranger was not only the most popular character in the series, but he has remained a fan favourite, even over 30 years later. His absence in this game wasn't just
Let me show y'all something. Hold up. Check it out. Hold on. Can y'all see this?
visible. It was downright disappointing. Considering his impact on the show, leaving him out felt like a major oversight, and for many players it was a distraction that lingered no matter how enjoyable the rest of the game was. The Green Ranger, introduced as Tommy Oliver, quickly became everyone's favourite due to his compelling story arc and undeniable cool factor. Unlike the original team, Tommy started as a brainwashed antagonist, adding depth and drama to the series. His transformation into a hero made for a powerful redemption arc. His mystique...
I had to get them when Jason David Frank passed. You know, I had to get, you know, it's a huge part of my childhood.
Martial arts prowess and the fact that he often operated independently made him stand out. Plus, actor Jason David Frank's charisma and presence cemented the Green Ranger as a beloved figure forever. If the developers had only the first few episodes to draw inspiration from, the omission of the Green Ranger would be understandable. However, the inclusion of the final bosses, who appeared much later in the TV...
That story arc when the Green Ranger came on the scene and he was evil and all of that stuff and he was trapped. Or who was trapped? The Rangers were trapped. I got to watch it again. I remember how epic it was, but I don't remember every single part. But man, that was such great storytelling. It was like a soap opera.
Series, well after the Green Ranger's debut, suggests otherwise. It seems clear enough that the developers were aware of the content from later episodes, so his absence can't be chalked up to ignorance. This makes the decision to leave out the Green Ranger even more baffling and disappointing, especially considering he would be playable in the inferior Mega Drive Power Rangers game. The only explanation that makes sense is that in Season 1 the Green Ranger loses his powers halfway through. By the time the Rangers face Cyclopsis, the powerful Zord piloted by Rita's henchman Goldar, who serves as the game's final boss, Tommy is no longer part of the team. So canonically, it does make sense, I guess. It just made many of us very sad. Speaking of the Green Ranger and Cyclopsis, here's a jaw-dropping piece of Ranger trivia for you. As you probably know, much of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers footage was taken from Zoo Ranger. I already told you that earlier. But did you know the reason the Green Ranger lost his powers in the Western show was because they ran out of usable footage? And here's the kicker.
Oh.
In the Japanese version, this is because the Green Ranger actually dies.
Oh.
That's right, he's dead. Hence why there was no footage of him battling Cyclopsis. What's crazier is that in Zoo Ranger, that fight wasn't just a two-part episode either. It was the series finale. And since it wrapped up with Bandora, Japan's version of Rita Repulsa, facing her ultimate defeat, this meant a lot of the footage never made it to the Western show, as they didn't want to kill off the character.
Yo, see, they go hard in other countries with shows, man. Like, they would not let something like that pass, like, you know, with kids in the 90s and stuff.
So let's dive into the real ending of this episode, and by extension, the Super Nintendo game's ending too.
So I wonder what was Zoo Ranger's story arc for bringing in the White Ranger?
After her defeat, Rita is left
Why does Zack look like that?
and by extension, the Super Nintendo...
I do not like him looking like that. Like, that literally looks like some minstrel show stuff to me. Like, I'm sorry, but it does. Like, why is his lips like that? Why does he not look normal like everybody else? At first, I thought he was smiling, but he can't be smiling because, hold on. I don't know if y'all can see my mouse, but like his part of his lips is right there. I do not like that. That's like hella whack.
Game's ending too. After her defeat, Rita is left powerless. In a heartbreaking twist, her hatred for humanity is revealed to have stemmed from a personal tragedy. Her son had died and she blamed the world for it. So in Japan, when presented to Japanese kids, this witch was a lot more layered and not evil simply for the sake of it. Her son Kai was a young boy who loved to play and explore. One day, while playing in the forest, he climbed a tree to capture a nest of dinosaur eggs. In his recklessness, he ended up falling to his death while trying to destroy the eggs. The loss devastated Rita, who blamed the dinosaurs and the world itself for her son's demise.
Wow.
Consumed by grief and rage, she made a pact with the great Satan, aka the ultimate evil, to gain dark magic powers and take revenge on the world. At the end of Zoo Ranger, Japanese Rita reflects on Kai's death when she realizes that her hatred and
Don't make deals with the devil, guys.
quest for revenge has been in vain. So she begins to weep. Her tears symbolize her grief and regret, and because she sheds these tears of genuine sorrow, she loses her dark magical powers. As part of her punishment, she and her minions are sealed away once more inside a space dumpster and exiled into space. While paying for her sins in space, the character gets an unexpected shot at redemption though, and a wild twist occurs to boot. Goldar and Scorpina somehow manage to have a baby. And surprise, it's a human. Rita, absolutely
What
giddy at the thought of nappy duty and baby giggles, jumps right in to help raise the little bundle of joy. So it turns out evil space sorceresses can also be good, dotting space aunties. But of course this only happened in Japan. The American version we grew up with stripped away any nuance, serving up a simplified black and white tale of good versus evil. No tragic backstories, no redemption arcs, just Zords, explosions, and catchphrases. It was much more Michael Bay.
Yo, that's fine. You know, I do want to see the zoo version as an adult, but what they gave us, man, it was perfect.
It's a classic reflection of American media tendencies to flatten any complexities in favour of easy to digest action and clear-cut heroes and villains. It makes you wonder, would we have appreciated the show more if we'd been exposed to those deeper, more mature themes? Could we have handled a tearful space sorceress trading world domination for baby cuddles? Or was the American show too entrenched in a culture that prefers spectacle over any substance to even care?
Okay, it just reminded me now because remember I couldn't remember how the episode went. So that's right, the Red Ranger was trapped and the Green Ranger was putting them paws on him.
Too entrenched in a culture that prefers spectacle over any substance to even care. Anyway, I hope revisiting this Super Nintendo classic and revealing the real ending of the game has blown your minds once again. Maybe now you'll see evil space witches like Rita Repulsa and Hillary Clinton with a little bit more empathy. After all, we all face our challenges, even intergalactic sorceresses plotting world domination. And nothing is ever as simple as good versus evil. No matter how often the
All right. Yes, it is. It's as simple as good versus evil a lot of the times. All right. If you're watching, please like and subscribe. It will help me out a lot. I would appreciate you. I will give you $5,000 of my love. All right. God bless to you and your family. Salutations to the nations. Peace.
Angel Knot.